Welcome back. In this video, we'll get hopefully closer to finishing up the game by putting in the game states. So we're still working on the game script, and the last time I left you, we just set this up here and said that we're going to change the game state to game over. But of course, we didn't have that yet. So what I'm going to do is come up to the top, and we're actually going to basically form these game states. And so to do that, we create a public variable. It's called an enum. So it's enumerating or setting them up, and it's going to be the game state. So there's sort of a set one of these. Oops, not game state, but game state. And you'll notice that this here, we're going to set them up so that we've got 4 of them. So one's going to be playing, and we usually just put them with commas separating them. So playing, game over, paused, and last one, launched. Okay, so those are our 4 states. Okay, and I think that's fine. Usually we just put that separate line. Let me just make sure. Good. So we've got our 4 states that we be in, and we'll set the game so that we're always, we're going to put here public. This basically sets it up. Game state. So that's actually a built-in function. Game state is equal to game, well, coming from this, okay? So we're going to take game state at the beginning is going to be launched, okay? So we're going to set the game state at the beginning to launched. And so that makes sense because we're going to sort of launch the ball there. So, I mean, you could call these whatever you want. You could play it like game start or something like that. Up to you. But that's sort of a typical one. The game is sort of in its launching phase. So what we're going to do next is just do some changes to some of the scripts. So one of the ones is the next round. We don't want it to sort of right away do the next round unless we are in the playing state. So what we can do is come to next round here and basically just wrap this these instructions in an if statement. So if the game state is equal to game state dot playing, so if we're playing, then we will want to be able to do this. We want to launch the ball, right, and spawn the ball and so on. Okay, so that's what's going on there. It's just staying in the playing state. We can do this. If we're not in playing, then we don't want to do it. So this is not going to occur, obviously, right at the start anymore. It's not going to go to the next round. So that's one thing we need to do. Another thing that we need to do is create a start game script, okay, that sort of initializes everything. So what I'm going to do is, might as well come down to the bottom. And, ooh, I would have an error here too. Let's just make sure I close that up. Okay, so let's put in another function here, and we'll call it start game. Oops, I forgot to put void here. Start. And this will contain basically everything that we need to do at the beginning of the game. So when we start the game, we want to make sure the player score and the computer score are both set to 0. We want the scores. We could do this a different way, but player score, there it is. So HUD.PlayerScore dot text. Whoops. That was interesting. Dot text is equal to 0. Okay, so we're just setting up that text, and HUD dot computer score dot text. We're going to set that to 0 as well. Okay. What else should we do? We should make sure that the HUD dot sort of the computer win dot enabled is set to false, so it doesn't say that they win. And the HUD dot player win dot enabled is also set to false. That will just make sure it doesn't say win on it. what we want to do, that HUD dot, do we have a play, what did I call it, game over, right? Game start, sorry, dot enabled is also turned off while we're playing. And a couple other things. We need to change the game state to game state dot playing. Okay, a couple more things. We'll set the position of the the player. The computer should be set automatically, but we'll set the player transform. Just seeing if we've got that already. I basically have it here. I'm just going to copy that. Save some typing. Set the player's transform. Make sure it's sort of at 0. So I'm just going to do that. Sorry, it comes off the screen. But this is going to be the, wasn't the computer player, so what did we call it here? Computer player. Ooh, do we have a reference to it? Oh no, that's what we want. Sorry, we want the computer player there. We're fine. Yep. So that just resets the computers back to 0 there. So we can just keep that. So we're good. And then we want to spawn the ball. Okay. So I think that should be fine. So basically we're just setting everything up so that it works here. And yeah, we need something to obviously call the start game now. So what we'll do is we'll change a couple things up. At the moment, if you go back up here, so we had spawn ball. We had spawn ball doing that right at the start. So it just automatically did that. We don't want that to happen anymore. So what we're going to do is basically put a little bit of text in here. So we're going to do HUD dot, what did I call it? I called it game start, right? Dot text. We'll get this to say press, we'll do it all caps there, press space bar to play. Okay, so that just sets the text up there, and so that should be fine. I think that's okay. And then what we want to do is basically in the check input function, which we haven't created yet, we're going to get so when they press the space bar that they're able to use it. Just double checking here. Spawn ball, computer. Okay, yeah. So we want to do a check input, and this is just going to look for pressing the keyboard, and we can just have that always sort of running in the check update here. So I'm going to put that in here in the update. So we're going to call check input. So it's going to call this function, which we haven't created yet. And again, come right down to the bottom. And again, Mr. Fleming forgot. Okay, so private void check input. And in here, let me just move down. Let me just put a closing bracket to start off with there. Basically, if the game state is equal to game state dot launched, or the game state is equal to game state dot game over. I think we still have to do a little bit of work with that too. Lots of little things here. Basically, if the input dot get key up, so once they've released the key here, and that key will be the key code dot space, because it was the space bar. What we'll do is we'll call the start game function. Okay, so now that should be called there. All right. So once, if we're at the beginning or we've reached the end of the game, then and we're in that GameState.GameOver, then we're able to start the game again. Basically, restarts the game. So I think while we're at it here, so I think about it here for a second. Yeah, we're going to have to deal with changing it to the game state to game over. Did we get that? Oh yeah, we did that already. Sorry. So we're okay there, I think, because it called game over. And we set that to game over. Good. So we did do that. I was a little concerned we hadn't done that. Okay, so we've got that. Another thing that we could do is create a sort of a paused one as well. So we might as well do that. So let's just come down here. Since we put in that possibility of pausing the game, so private, we want a void, oops, and we'll call it paused/resume game, because it will sort of do both. So, and why is it giving me an error there? Okay, so we didn't quite finish that one up. There we go. Okay, so private void. So then here, so if the game state is equal to game state.paused, so if it's paused, then we're going to set the game state to, you guessed it, to playing. Okay, and then we will also turn off that HUD.GameStart.enabled is equal to false. Okay, and then the opposite thing is if, right, the else. So if it were in pause, we were basically playing here, then we're going to set it to equals to GameState.paused. Okay, we're going to change this message here. So the HUD.GameStart.text is going to be equal to, I'll do all in caps here, game is paused, press space to continue playing. Might be a little long there, but change it up. Oops, semicolon. Okay. And then, of course, we want that to be visible. So GameStart.enabled is equal to true. All right. So that gets us pretty close. I think I'll stop here. We still have a little bit more. Let me just finish up my brackets. So that ended that. That ends that. Okay, so we've got this paused resume game. We have to do a little bit more in the check input function to get that to work. And then we just have to do a few more things to make sure the game is working in terms of with the player and the computer, so it realizes what mode we're in, if we're in the paused or we're in the playing mode. So we'll just check that after. All right.